This is Unit 1, Lecture 7. Here we begin our look at the history of philosophy, starting with ancient philosophy. One way to study philosophy is historically, and we may divide the history of Western philosophy into 5 complete and clear periods, with a developing 6th period in the 3rd decade of the 21st century. These periods are distinguishable from each other according to their years of existence, certain characteristics of the period, and certain influential thinkers of the period. The 5 complete historical periods, with approximate beginning and end dates, are the ancient period from 650 BC to 450 CE, the medieval period from 450 to 1500, the early modern period from 1500 to 1800, the 19th century, and the 20th century. And as I just noted, we're developing a 6th period, having gone 3 decades now into the 21st century. The ancient period runs from roughly 650 BC to 450 CE or AD. It begins with novel philosophical thinking coming from an area called Miletus in Asia Minor. Prior to this, the general thinking tended to be poetic or mythological, but we begin to see distinctly philosophical thinking happening around 650 BCE or so, and this ancient period ends with the fall of the Roman Empire. The ancient period is characterized primarily by a novel respect for human reason, which some people have called logocentrism. Also in this period is a rejection of religious and political authority as primary sources of truth. We can divide the ancient period into 3 subperiods, reflecting the importance of Socrates. This includes the Pre-Socratics, the Socratics, and the Post-Socratics, more often referred to as the Hellenistic period, which is from the Greek word Hellas for Greece. The Pre-Socratics focused on philosophical questions about nature. Some of the more famous names from this period are Thales, Pythagoras, Heraclitus, and Parmenides. Allen and Springstead start with Plato and Socrates, so they don't get too much into the Pre-Socratics. The Socratic period shifted focus from nature itself to human nature. The major Socratic thinkers include Socrates, Plato, his number 1 disciple, and Aristotle, who was Plato's favorite pupil. It's not quite accurate to call Plato a pupil of Socrates, since Socrates was never a formal teacher. Plato was. He started the academy, the first university in Western culture. The post-Socratic or Hellenistic period involves several schools of thought. Most of these claim to be heir to Socrates' philosophy. For example, the Epicureans, named after Epicurus himself, held that the good life is a life of simple pleasure, and all the rest of Epicurean philosophy flows from that theory. The Stoics, who include, for example, Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, believed that the good life involves reverence for an understanding of nature and a peace that comes with not trying to control what we cannot control. If you're familiar with the Serenity Prayer, that's a Stoic prayer. This is the end of our brief account of ancient philosophy. There will be more to say about this period when we get to Allen and Springstead's text. Next up, a brief account of medieval philosophy.